Welcome,
Thank you.
Mr. Csörget.
Getting better and
I'm
better.
getting better. I'm trying to work out your surname. So this is Mannsarbeidet, and we're back in English, preferred language for this conversation. And today's focus will be on relationships and how to, let's call it how to prepare for relationships, yeah?
Oh.
Or what we men can do better in relationships, perhaps. Because at the moment there seems to be, in my opinion, men seems to be a little bit of a loss in relationship, especially men who does not do the work, the inner work. Because relationship needs a fair amount of understanding, a fair amount of communication, a fair amount of boundary setting, self-practices. It's a vast range of shit we need in order to succeed in relating. So I guess that's our starting point.
Yeah.
You got relationship experience, at least some
Yeah,
relationship experience.
yes, basically, after our previous podcast, that was the first thing that came up in my mind because it was related to my Power Awakening and the Power Awakening workshops as well. That I lost my power in a relationship. And that was the point when I reached out to you again to talk about this because, as you said, men are struggling with this and their partners too.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that's the problem when two people is just together, not enjoying the time together because of they cannot deal with some situations, and then they are avoiding some situations that feel make the relationship worse and worse. But they are just in, and just losing time, the beautiful time together. That could be beautiful, but this way it will be not. Maybe it will be just an illusion of a good relationship for some of them.
Well, how come you mentioned this? You said you lost your power in the relationship. Let's start there. How was that for you? How did you? Looking back now, you realize that you lost your power. You probably didn't in the moment, or were you aware in the moment as well that you felt disempowered or not empowered in the relationship?
Step by step, I lost my power, and it was because in my 20s I was physically strong and I was working on to be a good leader, team leader, technician. So practically I was also good at work, but I had no adult serious relationship experience really, because my experience in a long-term relationship, it was in my in my early 20s basically. So, and then I met a therapist girl, and then that was a period of my life that was the most difficult, I think.
That was the most difficult.
Yes,
Okay.
because being with a therapist non-stop, it's
So
like being on a therapy non-stop.
okay, so she didn't turn off the therapist when relating to you, and she was still in work mode then, yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing that we met when I was going downhill, and I didn't recognize that yet. But she just spent a few days with me, and we met a few times, and then she was honest, and she just said she see my plans, and she see everything I do, and she also see that it will not work. And it was something that made me realize that things are not going basically on the way that I'm thinking that it's going. So I was afraid of continuing it. And then I started to trust her because she was older, with more experience, with more educations related to self-development and management and everything. And in my 20s, I just had no idea about psychology, for example. So, and then it turned out that I should also start to get involved in that too, and spirituality. So I just jumped into this relationship. Like I felt like I need this one instead of going downhill with my original plan.
Yeah.
It was already something that, I lost my dreams kind of situation, but it was because of the poor planning. And I accepted it, but it was a process, of course, because I was deep in it. So I had no job, and then it turned out that my money I have, it's enough for around 4 months. So, okay, she just said, yeah, she can help me to get out of it, because she's basically observed my situation, and also that I don't know what to do with it exactly. So that was the second step, when she said she can help me to get out of it. And then she started to make a plan how to get money, how to get a better job, how to get back to job, and all these steps.
Sounds a little like emasculating. I mean, if she takes the lead of everything and sort of says, "You look, you do this," it's like a bit of mothering, right?
Yes, exactly. And I felt like a kid.
Yeah.
And now mother will tell me everything, and she knows everything better. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just gave all
Yeah.
the things to do. Please help me. Let me get out of this situation.
Because I'm just to put a tiny pin there, because I mean, I believe that that's kind of the extreme version of this, partner turns into mother, this type of dynamic. But I believe the dynamic in itself is very common. Like, I mean, letting like the partner sort of taking the reins or leading, whether it's leading the social life of the relationship, whether it's leading the family aspect of the relationship. If there are kids, very often the woman takes on that type of leadership. And I mean, it's easy for, I like to say, us men. I believe it's easy for us men to kind of lean back a bit and be like, okay, fine, you seem to be handling shit, it's the easy way out, so to speak, to allow the partner to mother us.
But when you just said this, the picture came up in my mind about it's like letting someone to chop the wood all the time, and you just enjoy the warm weather. But once this person is not there anymore,
yeah,
then you have to deal with the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And then your muscles are weak. You didn't practice. You don't know how to do. You don't know nothing about chopping woods. So you will have lack of knowledge and lack of strength. So actually that's happened. It's just the same like cleaning up after the kids, the housework solved by the parents, and all these things. So what the kid have to do? Nothing, because the parents are taking very, very good care, they think.
Yeah.
But basically you just take the opportunity from this person to grow and learn and fail, of course, and learn from the experience. So it's the same with partners. And when the woman, and there's many women who wants to save the man, then they face to these kind of things that they become mothers or therapists as well.
And I think it's subtle. I think it's like a subtle subconscious kind of pull, that happens. It's like, I mean, as a man, I'm also responsible for it, because it's a dynamic that happened. I choose to step into kind of like the boy, or I choose to let go. I choose to not take the responsibility. Whether it's unconscious or conscious, it's still my choice to step into the boy role, and she steps into the mother role. So it's like it takes two to tango, as they say, or it takes two people to create the dynamic. So it's not like on. But I mean, that being said, I still like to take responsibilities. I mean, it's our responsibility to step out of boy mode. But in relating, how to navigate it? What did you do? How did you kind of, once you realized that this was the dynamic you were in, she was mothering you a bit, you were sitting there with like feeling like a boy. What then?
The thing is, like in most of the relationships, I was not aware of the fact what's going on. I was just in the situation, we can say like I was like this in the situation. I didn't see this how it's from outside. So I just wanted to solve the things and start our relationship and our life and sort out our life, because we came from two directions and now we start to move together. So I was just in this. And then, yeah, step by step, I lost my power. And it was also sex. She was older, I was in my 20s, so we had two different kind of taste of sex. So then it was also, I was facing to these kind of feedbacks like, it's not good like that, I don't like this, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Lots of things that, you know, that an older woman don't like, a younger likes. And also a conscious woman likes, an unconscious man likes.
Yeah.
So that's also important. I was unconscious on doing that. And she was practicing Kriya Tantra as well, so she had more education, let's say, and experience in this too.
Yeah.
So then I just lost my sexual energy too. Like it was not the best to know and feel like it's not good like that. It's not good if I touch like this. So I just had this in my mind, and it just reduced my energy of doing it.
Yeah.
So
because that one is tricky. I mean, sexuality and relating, because I mean it's good to get directions. You know, I like this, I don't like that. You know, harder, faster, slower. That's good, but it sounds like for you that it tipped over, that it became almost emasculating, or that it made you doubt yourself or doubt your own ability.
Yeah, but it was about being conscious and unconscious. Psychology calls unconscious a person who is just, you know, just live according to the previous experiences and just don't see the things behind what happens in certain situations psychologically. So I was like that, and I didn't think about if I grab someone, it's good for me, but maybe not for the other.
Yeah.
But how it would be if I use this energy just to move my hands like this instead, because I can use the same energy but in a different way. I was not thinking about this. I just enjoyed that as it was as an unconscious person. But when I started to understand the things behind this and I started to practice Tantra, then I saw the sex from a very different perspective. And then I understood, but it was hard to do this and learn this again with the same person, because it become like a training kind of session, and it was not natural yet. So it was not easy, but I just accepted that, yes, I learned something now, but I don't feel it yet, but I want to do because I feel it's good. So I was not strong in that too. So another
It sounds like a super cool dynamic if you weren't in a relationship. If she was just stepping into like a mentor role, for instance, then it would have been, you know, great having like a sexual mentor in brackets. I mean, that sounds super nice, super tempting. But I can see the problem with the dynamic when that's the partner, you know, when the partner is always the knowledgeable, always the one who knows best, always the... Yeah. I mean, in your shoes, I would have definitely felt discouraged or less than, or insecure probably.
Exactly. But this relationship was basically the relationship I call peeling the onion. So I was an onion, an unconscious person. And then piece by piece, I started to leave these old patterns, things that are blocking me to feel and see things in a certain way, until we got into the core, until I was totally naked. Psychologically, I just cleaned everything and it was just me. I was very fragile, and receiving any feedback like this, like you don't do right this thing, you didn't do right this thing, and all this, it's just, you know, reducing the remaining energy too. So it is a very sensitive thing, and it would be totally fine as a trainer and a person who gets trained to live better. But in a relationship, it was just not the best.
But it sounds like you grew a lot, though, because as you sit here and as you sort of speak about it in retrospect, you seemed like, I mean, I don't perceive you as being shameful about, about not feeling good enough or not being good enough in the relationship or not being, sexually knowledgeable back then. So it's like, obviously, you've gone from that point to now, and it's been a journey of probably taking on some of these tools as well, and some of these practices and some of these things that she introduced to you.
Yes, and that's why all the things that's happening in our life is with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So if we start to see it not from the suffering view, but in another view, that what this helped me to learn and grow, then it will be, that's the key to learn and manage life better. Because if you see that from suffering view, like it was bad and this was bad and this was bad, and I'm happy that it's enough and it's over, it's not the mindset we need. To grow, you need to see what I learned. And I'm super grateful for this relationship. And basically, I just what is the word for that? I backlog, my inner work with her, because until we met, I didn't do any inner work.
Yeah.
And then in these 3 years, and actually, I just felt like it was walking on the street, and she asked me to join a ultra marathon.
Yeah.
And I joined.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that. And why I wanted to speak about how to lose energy is because people see us, for example, but they don't see how we become like this. Because someone can think that, we are just lucky and we are just like this. No. I went through hell, and then I become like this because I solved that and I understood and I learned the lessons. That's the thing.
I think that's the main stepping stone is this willingness to grow, right? And this willingness to use everything as an opportunity for growth. I used to have another teacher that would jokingly say, just another fucking opportunity for growth. And it's like we joke about it because it's like, oh shit, now I'm triggered again, and now I'm activated, and now I'm feeling shit, and now this emotion come up, and it's like, fine, just another fucking opportunity for growth.
Exactly.
But it is another opportunity for growth. And it's like, I believe that's the key mindset that you bring up there, that willingness. Because I mean, take that out. If there's no willingness to grow, then we're definitely just going to keep repeating and keep going in the same loop. Shit will get repeated, And I noticed that myself as well in terms of relating, like how communication, for instance, and how to communicate, how to view, and patterns, polarity, like all of these things have given me so much. But it's been a learning experience. I've gone through several long-term relationships that, they've ended. They might have ended. Well, I'm going to digress slightly, because also there is this thing about relating where, like, it saddens me a bit that relationships aren't giving the value that they deserve if they end. Because often I'm guilty of this as well. I speak about relationship as, we weren't meant to be. This wasn't meant to be. It didn't work out in the end. So it's always through this lens that is supposed to be permanent and forever. And most relationships are, for a time, and then there's another one for a time. Sometimes it's months, sometimes it's years, sometimes it's decades, but it's still, it's normally a relationship after relationship, and we'll go through something and we'll learn something. And I just want to kind of put that out there, this being grateful and honoring whatever it was, even if it didn't, in brackets, work out. It's still something it could still have love, it could still be genuine, it could still have, things that we would learn or go through. And again, opportunity for growth. So in that aspect, just want to say, relationships, all of them have value, regardless of length. They're all very valuable. And speaking of that, I'll notice that for me, I think the main key, I'm tempted to say the main key is communicating. That's the main key that I've taken. But I'm still in the midst. I'm still working on being genuine, being honest with whatever is alive inside me, especially just being in contact with what's going on inside me and then being able to share it. And this is still a work in progress. Even after, several long-term relationship and a lot of self-development work, I'm still in this, and it comes down to, I guess it comes down to power. I want to connect it to power since you're here as well. It comes down to an inner sense of power to sort of voice my boundaries, voice my desire, and be honest about where I am, where I stand, what I want and what I don't want. But this is still, it's easy to sit here in the chair and be like, yeah, I like this power. I want to be, I got my boundaries and so on. But in the moment, it's difficult. For me, it's difficult. I believe for many others, it's difficult too.
Yeah, communication is on workshops I hold. It's one of the main topic, and people referring to their families. That in our families we didn't speak about emotions.
Yeah.
In our families we didn't speak. We just had lunch together and together, whatever. We were just functioning, but there was no connection really between son or daughter and parents. And I can just jump to this topic because it just brings up the third one, that we had a dog. She had a dog and then I had a dog, luckily. And then she got sick.
Yeah.
Because this inner work that was very intense between us, it created stress in me, in her, and in the flat where we were living. And then we were aware that it is a hard work and it's hard for both of us, but as you said, we have seen that things can get better if we develop. So we did our job separately and together as well, but we still had lots of arguments, lots of tension and stress. And then the dog started to get sick. And it turned out that her stress level was like 5 times more than normal, or 6 or even more. I don't know, it's huge. And then he had a tumor. She had a tumor in her head. And then it shows that it can happen in families as well. Because if the kids cannot develop they cannot develop this self-defense mechanism to close down emotions, or ADHD, so they can be just everywhere, just not in the present moment because it's not good to be here.
Yeah.
Then they can get sick.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was a very good example that our dog died, basically, because it was just too much.
But at least you were doing the work, at least you were, as you said, you were developing each individually and also together. I believe even that development journey, a lot of people don't even have that, or even are even in a relationship where one partner is starting to do the work and the other one is not. And this is also where I judge men and relationship, because what I see is normally, I'm doing broad strokes here, but what I see is that more often than men, women are willing to do the work. More often than men, women bring home, maybe it's a book on communication, maybe it's some sort of, hey, honey, let's go to that workshop, or hey, I read about this thing, called whatever, love languages. And the guy's like, what do we have to change? Why do we have to talk about this? Come on. And they're the stagnated one, right? So this is also part of the passion why I believe that we as men really need to do the work, regardless of anyone else. We need to, as we mentioned in the beginning of this episode, this whole thing about taking self-responsibility and doing the work, seeing everything as opportunities for growth. And then we're into specific tools as well on tools for growth, basically. And self-responsibility for me is the main one in relating. To me, I think that's been the second to communication. That's been the main key for me in relationship, is this ownership or taking responsibility, instead of saying, you make me feel, or you doing rah, rah, rah. It's always back to like, now I feel, or now I'm sensing, or now I have a story. It's back to me. And then trying to shift it, you know, even if there's a fight, even if she's acting, you know, totally chaotic, so to speak, I check in, you know, where can I take responsibility here? And then start, you know, just grabbing responsibility basically, and saying, look, I'm triggered in this moment. I'm going to breathe a little bit to calm myself, or something along those lines.
And also important to remember, when you're pointing your finger, then the other three is pointing at you.
Yeah, that's a nice one. These ones are pointing back. It reminds me of this saying, you know, it's easy to see the splinter in someone's eyes and then miss the balcony in your own eye, basically. But I like this one. 3 fingers at me.
Yeah, we always have to think about that. Like, okay, I have this thing,
Yeah.
but what is inside me? What made me pointing at you and being angry? What is my part in this?
Yeah.
It's worth it to bring it to groups, for example, talk about it, because maybe we cannot see it, but then others can help us to see. It's important to have this outside feedback from outside. So what you just said about being open when our partner brings a book about communication or whatever topic that she feels that we should do better, to being open. And I wanted to give a quick motivation to others. Like, if you don't give what your partner needs, what will happen? She will find someone who will give it to her. It's that easy. So you can lose your partner if you are not open. Yeah. So that's that easy, basically. But it's not easy when you have a family, because then it's we will regret saying no to go to a self-development group, because it's whatever the reason why we don't go to self-development groups or therapists or whatever that could help us.
I mean, why do so few men want to, you know, go to something? Is it because it feels like failure? This whole, or I need to, in brackets, seek help outside. Is that, does it feel like failure? Do you think that's the reason why so few men want to? Because that's my impression anyway, that few men wants to do therapy, wants to, you know, develop that way, basically.
Yeah,
it's like, here's a problem, I need help to fix it.
The first thing came up in my mind, it's we didn't see this in our family. The second thing is not in the movies too. In the movies we have guys who's just super strong, they kick everybody's ass, and they are just, girls just love them. There is nothing about self-development and groups and stuff. No, and it doesn't feel natural, and it was not yet a common thing to do. And why men avoid this? They also don't have experience. I had no friends who would say, come to our men's group because it's so cool to do this thing together. You don't know what you miss. I had nobody. I had my friends who do sport or do hiking, bike or whatever. So it's also those who's around us. And also the partners I had before. In my 20s, I just had girls in their 20s. So they were also just like me, living life without anything to think about, like psychology and spirituality. So I had to choose an older woman in her 30s with lots of skills and show me the way of life. So there is quite a few reasons, basically.
I think there's something around, for me, it triggers this, like the you know, this feeling of, or this idea that I'm, you know, if I'm not able, like I should be able to fix everything myself. I think that's what's been there for so long in me, this notion that I'm supposed to fix it. And if I need to seek help outside, then I'm failure, basically. So if we're relating and the relationship goes bad, and, you know, ideally, I prefer to go into therapy before the relationship is bad, just as a growth aspect. But even if the relationship goes bad, you know, then to seek out outside help, it's difficult. It pulls on this, you know, shameful piece of manliness. I think that's dormed in every man, where we're like, well, I'm not supposed to seek help because help makes me weak. I'm supposed to be able to do it myself. And I think that's also something that, you know, I'm still working on that with myself, this ability to sort of say, hey, look, I'm not handling this now. I need to seek help. And trying to shift the mindset that even getting outside help, whether it's a coach, a therapist, whether it's within the relationship or whether it's personal, just for me, seeking help, like I'm working on this reframe where taking that step is masculine or is manly or it's empowered. It's like I'm stepping up and I'm taking responsibility, even if that means I need to take the responsibility and seek help. Then the seeking help is not a failure, because it means I'm stepping into a self-empowerment, basically.
Exactly.
Taking responsibility.
Yeah.
So just want to sort of throw that out there as a little piece around men and our lack of seeking help.
The other thing, you know, in the group, you can hear my story, for example. If I'm just participating in a group, I can tell this story that if I hear any relationship related story, I can bring mine in. How I lost my power, how I got my power back.
Yeah.
And then you can learn, like you can hear like, things can get wrong really quickly. And someone can die in your family, like our dog. It can be a kid who gets sick, and you don't want to experience that for sure. So one thing that came up in my mind is this, that you can hear things that make you aware that it's good to do actually self-development, going to therapy and read these books and find out what are my scars from my family and all these things, what are my bad patterns I have to be aware. And the second thing, the good positive characters that we need to see.
Yeah.
For example, for me, Lama Olen Nidal from Diamond Way Buddhism, that's a guy, if you search his name, you just see a big smile on him and you just feel like he has so good energy and you want to know how to do this. And he has a good story about that, how he has this. And as you said, coach, trainer, whoever you see as a positive person, that can be a person who can help you. So we need these characters, but also the story behind. How did you do this? How are you like this? Like, what's the technique to be happy and just cool?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I mean, especially I like the point that you made with groups as well, because there's something around, like I see myself included, and so many people in relationship, they do the relationship process in a vacuum. So it's just the, you know, man and woman in a relationship, and then they, behind closed doors, they argue, and then they put on a mask or just sort of push it on the rug, go out to the world. Maybe they share that, you know, we're having some difficulties, but that's it. And then they work in a vacuum. So the importance of, and this is not just men's group. I mean, I'm a big advocate of men's group, for men to do some processing outside the relationship with peers, with, you know, other men, but also joint groups. I mean, or groups like another passion of mine is couples groups, where, you know, 3-4 couples sit in a circle and then, you know, share their story, work through some argument or some issue with the others being witness, you know. It's that shit is powerful because it brings the relationship problems out of the relationship and out of this little isolated bubble. And that's where healing happens. Because I mean, I myself as well, I walk around, I look at other couples and I'm like, oh, they look so happy and they look like they got it all going on. And truth of the matter is, most relationships have their issues, triggers, trauma, you know, something to work on.
Yeah, I didn't try this kind of group, but sounds good. But I already noted down that when you have a family with kids, you show a model of family, how mama, papa is functioning in a family, how they solve problems, how they express emotions, what are their love languages. The kids will see you, and they will bring this into their life, into their relationship. So I just noted that what a motivation can be for man or woman, that you are your role model for your kids or your future, in your future family, you will be the role model. So do you want to be like this as you are at the moment? Will it be something that you want to give it to your kid, or you want to be better? Because I always tell to people since this experience, just work on your ideal self constantly.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you will be not your ideal self, never.
But that's a good little inquiry that you have there. I like inquiries, these little questions that we can ask ourselves. And that's a good one, this, am I acting like the best role model I could be in this moment? It's nice if I'm sitting with, like, let's say I'm some choices or I'm doing something in life. It's like this to pause and to then ask in, am I being the best role model in this moment? If I have a kid, am I the best role model now for him or her? Or if I don't have kids, then it's like, if I had kids, am I now being the best role model? Because it's a nice little sort of inquiry to get on track. Because I think we deep down know when we're fucking up shit and when we're doing things that are aligned.
Yes, and where you don't want to find yourself is a relationship or a family situation where you don't have the skills, experience, and the spiritual and psychological knowledge to deal with the thing, because then it is a reactive thing that you have to do. Going to therapy, going to find a couple therapist and all this, it's a reactive action. And I'm a health and safety manager, and I always speak about the proactive actions, which is basically doing self-development.
For sure.
Because if you get into trouble with your partner, you will have some things already that I heard, I was reading, I already had a previous relationship where I solved that, or my partner helped me to learn how to solve it, and all this. So you want to have a tool set of this. Instead of not having it and it just be like this, like without anything, and then you try to figure out, which is really hard, really stressful, and maybe you will lose your family or just the partner. Because this partner I was talking about, she was really perfect. She was educated, experienced, a strong woman, a lot of good things. We had beautiful time together, many beautiful moments. So I observed this, like, it's amazing. I didn't have any relationship in my life like this. And it's so beautiful. And I lost this relationship because I was just not ready. I had no skill set for maintaining it and save it and all this. And I just faced all my dark side, all my shit, everything in once, because she was just ready to show me all that is should be fixed and corrected and So I was just not ready. So if someone wants ideal partner, you have to work on your ideal self.
For sure. For sure. Let's take a dive into the toolbox. If you were to have, let's say you have three tools or three like little piece of the toolbox is large by now. The toolbox is probably large, but if you could sum it up into a few tools that you could either, give men today or advise men to use, or even yourself back in the 20s. If you were to throw some tools back into your 20s, which ones would you consider the most important ones?
And why I have self-development groups for men and women is because one of my best tools just to be in these groups when I started my psychological journey, because I realized that I had a lot of things to fix, and I said to her that I will do as much as possible, as soon as possible, to fix myself, to grow quickly. And the groups gave me a lot, because there are people. First of all, you see that you are not a retard, because there are others with the same problems in their 50s, 40s, 60s.
Yeah.
So you feel more relaxed, like, okay, it's not just me. The second, they accept you as you are. Plus, you will hear all kinds of similar stories, what you can integrate, and every story will be personalized. So you cannot get a ready solution here and I take it home and it works. Everybody have to make their own, because it will not, it's no universal tool. So there was a lot of good things in this. Plus you can get you can share your stories, and if you don't see something about your story, someone can have a good question, make you aware of something and make you think. So groups, for sure.
Groups the number one. Yeah, nice.
And then the second, I was reading a lot of psychological books based on the things that she highlighted. So I just went to the bookstore and just find all this. And also she recommended a lot because she knew a lot.
Okay, you should read this, honey.
Yeah, exactly. And then I find my favorite psychologists that I can understand easily. They have the topics I have to learn about. And the good things that I even learned other topics as well that are not related to my story, so I can understand others as well. So it made me open and understand psychology. It's important. And the third, it was basically spiritualism, just to understand life. What is life? Because once you know what spiritualism is, then you can start to make conscious decisions, know about my actions will have also triggers other actions and all this. So you just become more aware of life, how it works. One of the book of the Lama Ola is the way that things are. It's just easy, you know. But you have to see it to manage your life consciously from now on. So if you ask three, that's the three.
Those three ones, yeah. Yeah, nice. Exactly. I mean, with spirituality, it makes it easy because it normally lifts the perspective from like my own little personal bubble to something that's slightly bigger than myself. And because spirituality can be a lot, right? Spirituality is, you know, everything from virtually religion to faith to everything in between. But it's something around this stepping out of the little isolated me bubble where everything is about me. You know, whatever happens, it's, you know, to get the grander picture. So I like that one. For me, I think the first piece, like what we mentioned earlier, for me is the self-responsibility, taking responsibility and saying that, you know, look, whatever happens, you know, there are thousands of reasons why I'm feeling this way. You know, she might have said something, he might have done something, the work, the boss, the wife, whatever. For me, the key point is then coming to this point of like, and now what? Whether it's like, you know, I had a traumatic childhood, you know, my mother was this, my father was that, my brother was such, and then it's like, but now what? And then to like, you know, basically put the rod in the earth, you know, and say, now, from now, what do I do? That for me is the key to responsibility. And from there on, I think everything starts to shift a little bit, because then you can bring in the perspectives of, you know, relationships being an opportunity for growth, you know, incidents being opportunity for growth, and so on. But for me personally, it needs to rest on this responsibility, this self-responsibility, where it's all about what do I choose to do now. And then in terms of relating, we need emotional awareness as men. And for me, the biggest one has been, you know, I like NVC, nonviolent communication, as like an easy stepping stone into getting some perspective on, you know, what are my actual feelings here? What are my actual needs? And how can I find a strategy to have my needs met? For instance, asking for them or whatever. And this shifts a lot. Instead of, you know, you never listen to me, taking it back, you know, when you look away, I feel sad. I have a need for, you know, respect or whatever. Are you willing to look at me as we speak? You know, that's the trajectory. And this shifts a lot. And even be able to guess, you know, if a partner is like, oh, you haven't done whatever, you never give me. It's like, huh. sounds like you're sad, sounds like you feel lonely. You know, are you looking for connection? Then I can start to ask, you know, empathy guesses. To me, a lot of that has come through nonviolent communication. So I like that as a little, yeah, it's been with me for a long time, and it's just there in my back pocket. That's like a little tool that I like to bring up, and it's given me a lot in those perspectives. I also want to add some, in terms of relating especially, I like to add like a polarity awareness. This, like, I mean, 30 years ago or something, a book was written called Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus. And then throughout this last period, it's been joked about a bit. Some people reckon it's very true. Some people reckon it's a joke. It's all based on how we perceive the world different based on our gender. And communication and language, for me, I still believe in that. I believe we're very different. And for men to then realize that my preferred language is directness, clarity, you know, what I hear, the words are truth. You know, if you say you're fine, I'm going to take that as face value. I'm not going to read between the lines. I'm not going to look for subtext, you know. It's like what you say is what it is. It's very sort of manly. And most men, I believe most men have a subconscious craving for that. And based on that, we try to force the partner into being more direct, being more clear. You know, why can't you just tell it like it is? Or, you know, sounds like you're asking for advice. Here it is, you know. Which normally fucks things up, because that's not the feminine way to communicate. And then having the awareness that, you know, at least for every woman that I've been with, they all read subtext between the lines. You know, they say something and then it's like 3 more levels of stuff included in it. Words are feelings, basically. And so it's a different language, different communication. And then often they also want the opposite from us, rather than this direct, you know, clear, oh, you said this, why can't we just do that? You know, to be heard, to be met with guessing feelings and so on. So for me, that's been a key in relating, just being aware of that we are so different, and shifting the communication a bit.
Yeah, the difference and the communication, usually when we speak at the workshop, they are coming up. Yesterday, for example, I just noted down, we had someone who shared that she not used to speak what she thinks because she avoid that kind of stressful situations, and it's because of her childhood where it was just not a good idea to speak up.
Yeah.
So she avoided to speak up.
Childhood patterns living on, yeah.
And that's it just brings us back to the being a role model in our family, or working on to be a good role model in our future family, because we have to be aware that we will give this to our kids, and we should spare this trauma and not cause this trauma to our kids, to have a stressful environment around them, seeing that Papa Mama cannot solve a problem, or they cannot express emotions because they didn't fix or they're not aware of their childhood trauma as well. So we just have to work on ourselves to be just confident, just to be cool in the normal life, and not to be afraid of speaking up, using our voice. Yesterday it was the Power Awakening workshop, and those who were scared to come, some of them came, and then they had a liberating, cool feeling that they can use their voice, and they felt that they can set boundaries like this, because you awaken this power in you. And it's communication, but for you there's lots of blockages.
Yeah.
So then if you realize this, that's cool, then you can start to go to all kinds of workshops to work on it. Singing, for example, use your voice, be in this beautiful present moment where you can use your voice. Maybe it's not the best in the beginning, but you can work on it, and then go to shout in a Power Awakening, for example. But you can just go and have any kinds of like improvisation workshops where you can just come up with all kinds of things just to speak, because we have to practice communication, we have to practice conflict resolution. How many people can do conflict resolution? Most of the people have. Also a problem with that. I'm at men's workplace with 90% men, and the conflict resolutions are very weak. There is like maybe 30%, but it's because of relationships, those who's developed in that. So definitely communication is something we have to highlight as a main thing to work on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, conflict resolution, what comes up in me as well is also this how to self-regulate. Because that for me has been so, has also been a big piece, this being able to track and notice when I'm start to get activated and start to get triggered, and then to self-regulate, to use my breath to, calm my nervous system, basically. Because I'm totally guilty in many relationships trying to solve conflict when I'm activated. And then there's no prefrontal cortex at work. It's just lizard brain going, fight, flight, freeze, you said this, or I'm going to fucking leave all this behind and go,
But the good thing, and it was yesterday, the topic, that once you know some of your activation points, tell this to your next partner, your actual partner, that, hey, I realize this, that I have certain things that I get is activated. So what can we do to avoid getting too far when it's like a volcano? Because if we catch it in time, it will be not that bad.
Yeah.
Because then you can just solve it without too much problem. So being in time, it's really needed in that case.
That's a beautiful point you bring up there, because you said it with how can we avoid this from going too far? Because there's something around, we don't want to avoid it altogether. If I say to my partner, I get triggered when you say X, Y, Z, so never say X, Y, Z. Then I think we're just in avoidance. But if I say, these X, Y, Z tends to trigger me. So, once I start, let's dance with it, let's use some caution, let's be aware. Then we can work with it. And I think that's such a beautiful and important piece that, we're not trying to avoid. We're just going to keep on regulating and keep on developing. And that's super interesting. We're at the end of this little podcast, but to end it, relationship for me, I think is the main key to growth, or at least the biggest challenge. And to finish with a quote, I think it's Ram Dass that said, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family.
That's a good one.
Mate, thank you so much for coming today. Very quickly, where can people find you? Where can people get in contact with you?
If you publish this video quickly, then Soria Gathering, Lofoten Islands, that will be that beautiful festival. And then September, it will be a men and women retreat, Power Awakening retreat. And in December, men's retreat. And between all this, I will have one workshop in Oslo. Nice. As a Power Awakening mostly, yeah.
Beautiful. And we'll post the links for your website and your contact details.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for this. And until next time.
Yeah. Thank you for watching.